the education system in India, and I think by necessity, prioritizes essentially employability, right? Employable skills in a way. We've heard in the past also that, there's at least the school level of emphasis on rote learning. That's very last century, actually, and that needs to change in any case. But do you think somewhere the fact that we'll be delegating a lot, and many of us are already using these tools, and it's easier and easier to actually delegate your thought process to Gen AI, and it's only going to get better. Do you think, especially when it comes to education and how that, I feel like the college life, at least undergrad to grad, is such an important phase in our overall development, right? I want to ask you if you feel that something will be lost in that process, because sometimes in striving to learn, we are also, gaining something. And there's someone I was speaking to was saying that the drudgery, for example, before you master anything, there's some merit to that process. Now, do you think that's also an outdated way of looking at things, and everyone will have to adapt? Because that might be a longer term impact.
I don't think that's an outdated way, Amrita. I agree with some of the people who feel that the drudgery is necessary. But then there are also people who don't necessarily like or want that drudgery. And then remember, in our country, there are very large numbers of people who are getting neither the education nor the drudgery because they just don't have access to information, to learning and education of the quality that you're talking about. Or even if they are at institutions, so called, the quality is very poor. So they are today getting nothing. Now, for them, this is a big step up. Just so, and by the way, that's at least in higher ed, that is a majority of people in this country. Remember,
Yeah.
I think the answer to your question, though, and your question is a pertinent one, is that now there will be no one size fits all. So I think what this enables is a world where only if you do want to have the 4 years of being on a pristine campus with great teachers, do it all together in 4 years, experience that, and you feel that you've earned that somehow, or you're privileged to have that somehow, or you want that somehow, then I do think that people will continue to do that. But equally, people will say, look, if I can't get that, and particularly in countries like India, where you have no choice, you're not getting it, then all is not over for me. I can still go out and learn. I can still go out and strive for things on my own. Now, the question is, will our systems catch up enough and fast enough? I think eventually they will. It's a question of when it'll happen. I hope that we have the foresight and the insight to rapidly accelerate this world so that even if people don't have a full school education or any college education, they can use AI to their advantage to further their careers, their aspirations, and so on. I think that's the power of what is happening. But there may still be, like you said, people who feel like, look, I don't need to go back and work immediately, go out and work immediately. I want to learn. I want to submit myself to the 4 years of outdated traditional college models, right?
Yeah.
And that will be there too.
That's interesting. I don't know if anyone wants to go. Like, I feel like it's in retrospect, you look back and you're like, oh, that drudgery was important. I feel like at that moment, at that age, 16, 17, you're kind of like, let's get on with it. But, I just want to build on this with you a little bit. So I was going through the transcript of your session at Rising Bharat. I'll link to this in the show notes. It's on money control. And you talk about this being a game changer for people who are not getting an education anyway, who may not have hope for a job. And you said they may completely leapfrog going to school or college in our system, and that's fascinating. It's the way we also leapfrogged to mobiles, rather than laptops. Can you build on that a little bit?
Yes, Amrita. Look, if you grow up in a second tier, third tier town, uh, you grow up in a village, you are not lucky enough to get to a pathway like go to a Navodaya school from which you are recognized and picked up with a scholarship to go to Ashoka, right? You are in a Navodaya school, you are bright, you are working, you are studying in a local school in a second tier, third tier town in Dehri on Son or Saharanpur, right? It's not a very well recognized school. You do well, you think you deserve better, but because of where you are, which school you went to, what board you were in, your English, You don't get into a good university, you don't get into a new college, you're languishing. You know internally, and the world perhaps also, some people recognize that you have tremendous potential. Now, I think through technology driven, digital, online, remote, whatever you call it, education, and now powered by AI, if you are self motivated, then you can learn whatever you want.